Where legends breathe again. Eldmyth. In the forgotten sands where ruined kingdoms crumble, a lone figure rides a reptilian beast. This is Agares, the fallen duke who commands earthquakes with a whisper and bends languages to his will. Summon him, and watch the ground tremble beneath your feet. The air grows cold, not with the chill of winter but with a profound, soul-deep absence of warmth. It is a silence that does not comfort but swallows. The familiar sounds of the world, the whisper of the wind, the distant hum of life, are abruptly extinguished. In that vacuum, a new sensation begins, a low, guttural vibration that seems to emanate not from a single point, but from the very foundations of reality. It is the sound of stone grinding against stone in deep, lightless places, of ancient roots shifting in soil untouched by the sun. This is the first herald of his presence. Before any form is seen, before any name is spoken, you feel him. A pressure builds in the air, thick and heavy, making each breath a conscious, labored effort. Shadows, once static and innocent, begin to writhe with a subtle, malevolent life, stretching and contorting at the periphery of your vision. This is the unseen hand of Agares, the duke who stands before the storm. He is not merely a creature of myth, but a pervasive atmospheric intelligence, a patient force that has watched empires rise and crumble to dust from the silent, shadowed corners of the world. His name has been whispered in forbidden texts and carved into the foundations of ruined temples, a secret kept by the mad and the enlightened. To know of Agares is to understand that the world we perceive is a fragile veil, and behind it, patient and eternal, are primordial powers that shape the bedrock of existence itself. They do not rage or scream for attention. They simply wait, and in their waiting, the very fabric of our sanity grows thin. To trace the origin of Agares is to dive into the murky, primordial waters of pre-Abrahamic belief, where the lines between God, spirit, and demon were fluid and undefined. Long before he was catalogued in the grim, binding pages of European grimoires, his essence was felt in the wild, untamed places of the ancient world. Some philologists, studying the dusty, crumbling fragments of Ugaritic and Canaanite texts, suggest his name echoes a root word relating to the gatherer, or the one who returns, a title for a chthonic deity responsible for calling the wandering spirits of the dead back to the dusty silence of the underworld. He was a psychopomp of the barren places, a lord of the cracked earth and the deep, soundless deserts, a necessary part of the cosmic cycle. This ancient role was one of function, not inherent malice. With the relentless rise of the great monotheistic religions, the old gods of the land were systematically dethroned, their domains declared profane, their ancient rites branded as heresy. The dignified gatherer of the desert was thus recast in a new, terrifying light. His divine authority was stripped away and replaced with the scorching brand of demon. In the seminal text known as the Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonium, and later in the infamous Lesser Key of Solomon, Agares is formally enlisted as the second spirit of the Goetia, a duke of immense power, commanding 31 legions of infernal spirits. These texts, written in cloistered rooms by scholars who feared the very knowledge they transcribed, describe him as a deceiver, a teacher of languages, and one who can cause the earth to tremble, a faint, distorted memory of his ancient dominion over the very soil and stone. His fall from grace was not a descent into weakness, but a transformation, a strategic retreat into the shadows of the New World Order, where he would henceforth operate not as a recognized god, but as a hidden tempter, a corrosive influence waiting in the ruins of forgotten faiths. The true, terrifying visage of Agares is a thing of shifting perceptions, a form that reveals the observer's own deepest fears and unspoken expectations. While the grimoires speak of a benign old man, this is merely a glamour, a carefully constructed mask donned to make his unbearable reality palatable to mortal senses. When that mask slips, the reality is one of sublime, geological horror. He stands over 9 feet tall, his body a tapestry of stark contradictions, simultaneously corporeal and spectral. His skin resembles weathered, gray limestone, cracked and seamed with intricate lines of molten gold that pulse with a slow, rhythmic light, as if the very core of the earth flows through his veins. From his brow erupts a magnificent, terrifying crown of antlers, not of bone, but of petrified, blackened wood, twisted into shapes that seem to articulate forgotten, guttural languages. His eyes are not orbs, but pools of absolute obsidian, reflecting not light, but the hidden shames and secret sins of those who dare to meet his gaze. When he moves, it is not with the sound of footsteps, but with the deep, subterranean rumble of tectonic plates shifting in their eternal, slow dance. Great, tattered wings of shadow and volcanic smoke unfurl from his back, not for flight in our thin atmosphere, but to navigate the deeper, darker currents between worlds. His hands, ending in claws of polished onyx, can phase through solid matter, and his breath carries the scent of ozone before a storm and the deep, loamy decay of a primeval forest floor. An aura of palpable silence surrounds him, a sphere where sound dies, and only the deafening roar of one's own heartbeat remains. The powers of Agares are as subtle and profound as the erosion of a canyon by a relentless, patient river. He does not deal in the crude, flashy displays of fire and brimstone. His is the refined art of foundational manipulation. His primary dominion, a chilling echo of his origins, is over the very earth we walk upon. With a mere thought, a focused act of will, he can initiate a localized tremor, a subtle vibration that begins as a nuisance and escalates into a ground-shattering quake. This is never random destruction. It is a precise, surgical tool. He can topple a single, significant spire of a cathedral to send a message, collapse the entrance to a sacred tomb to hide a secret, or open a fissure precisely where a fleeing victim seeks to run. His most infamous and insidious talent, however, lies in the realm of communication and cognition. Agares is the absolute master of all languages, living, dead, and celestial. He can teach a mortal the chattering tongue of the birds, the secret, sibilant language of snakes, or the divine, mind-shattering speech of angels, though the knowledge often corrodes the listener's sanity, leaving them a babbling wreck. Conversely, he can strip a person of their own voice, leaving them a mute, screaming prisoner within their own mind, or he can gift them with such silver-tongued, irresistible eloquence that they can sway empires, all the while being a hidden mouthpiece for his own infernal agenda. He finds fertile ground in the hearts of politicians, sowing discord and deliberate misunderstanding in diplomatic meetings, and in artists, gifting them with brilliant, cursed inspiration that leads to masterpieces of sublime despair. The legend of Brother Malachi, a 12th-century scribe in a secluded alpine monastery, serves as a chilling testament to the dual-edged nature of Agares' gifts. Malachi was a man of limited intellect but boundless ambition, yearning to produce an illuminated manuscript so magnificent it would guarantee his place in heaven. In the deep of a winter night, as he despaired over his clumsy Latin, he performed a forbidden ritual described in a fragment of a pagan text, whispering a plea for divine inspiration into the freezing air. The air in his scriptorium grew still and cold. Agares did not appear in a flash of fire, but as a sudden, profound understanding that blossomed in Malachi's mind. The next morning, the monk awoke possessed of an inexplicable genius. He could now read and write not only flawless Latin and Greek, but also ancient Hebrew, Aramaic, and tongues no scholar had heard for 1,000 years. His pen flew across the vellum, creating breathtaking art and calligraphy. The other monks declared it a miracle, but the gift was a poison. Malachi began to hear whispers in the languages he now knew, whispers from the stones of the monastery, from the winter wind, from the very rats in the walls. They spoke of the monk's hidden sins, of the monastery's buried secrets. The knowledge twisted him. He started adding blasphemous subtexts and infernal symbols into his holy illustrations, hidden in plain sight. When the abbot finally confronted him, Malachi, his eyes wide with a terror he could no longer articulate, could only speak in a guttural, prehistoric tongue that made the holy water in the font steam and boil. He had been given the gift of tongues, but in doing so, Agares had stolen his peace, his faith, and ultimately his soul. Not all encounters with the Duke are so subtle. In the annals of a forgotten noble family in the Black Forest, there is a tale of a young, arrogant baron, Alaric, who sought to expand his lands. A stubborn old farmer named Klaus refused to sell his ancestral plot, a piece of land that stood directly in the path of the baron's new hunting lodge. After threats and bribes failed, the baron, in a fit of rage, sought out a disgraced cleric and demanded a curse be placed upon the farmer. The ritual was botched, a name was misspoken, but it was enough to attract a far greater attention than intended. That night a profound silence fell upon Klaus's farm. No dogs barked, no crickets chirped. The baron, watching from a ridge, saw Klaus flee his cottage, only to freeze mid-stride in the courtyard, as if he had run into an invisible wall. He was not merely still. He was absolutely, petrifyingly immobile, his face locked in a rictus of terror. The earth beneath the baron's own feet then began to tremble, not a violent quake, but a deep, localized shudder that cracked the foundation of his own nearby carriage. From the forest's edge, Agares emerged, not in his old man guise, but in his full, terrifying splendor, a walking mountain of stone and shadow. He did not look at the frozen farmer, but directly at the hiding baron. His message was clear. The Duke had made the one who ran stand still, and in doing so, had demonstrated his absolute control over the domain of motion and earth. The baron fled, maddened by fear, and his line ended soon after. Klaus was found days later, alive but catatonic, forever trapped in that single moment of flight, a living monument to the price of invoking a power that can halt a life as easily as it can halt a man. The summoning of a Duke of Hell is not a matter for the faint of heart or the unprepared intellect. The rituals, as meticulously detailed in the Lesser Key of Solomon, are exercises in extreme precision and spiritual fortitude. The conjurer must first inscribe a complex, circular seal of Agares onto a pristine piece of virgin parchment, using a mixture of dove's blood and powdered silver. This seal is a cage of names and sigils, a metaphysical contract designed to bind the spirit to the magician's will. The ritual is performed within a protective triangle, carved into the earth or drawn with consecrated chalk, often at a crossroads at the stroke of midnight or in a place of great geological age, like a cavern or a rocky summit. The air grows heavy, the flame of the ritual candles burning an unnatural, steady blue. The conjurer must chant the evocatio, the long, sonorous invocation of Agares' titles and powers, their voice steady and commanding despite the creeping dread. The success of the ritual is never guaranteed. A single mispronounced syllable, a flicker of doubt in the heart, can turn the ceremony from one of control to one of catastrophe. Agares is a master of languages. He hears not just the words, but the intent, the fear, and the arrogance behind them. A successful summoning may see him appear in his old man guise, astride his crocodile, ready to bargain, offering knowledge of languages, the causing of earthquakes to destroy a rival city, or the granting of political status. The price, however, is always the same: a piece of the conjurer's soul, their sanity, or their very freedom. He is known to drag failed magicians into the earth itself, their screams muffled by tons of soil and stone. Beyond the formal rituals of the grimoires, Agares has always been a figure of cult worship, attracting those who seek power through the subversion of the established order. These hidden cults do not meet in grand temples, but in cellars, in the backs of forgotten bookshops, or deep within the wilderness. Their members are often linguists, archaeologists, politicians, and artists, individuals whose lives are built upon the foundation of communication and influence. The ceremonies are hushed, solemn affairs, centered on an idol often carved from petrified wood or veined granite representing the Duke. They offer not blood sacrifices, but something far more valuable to him: words. They recite ancient, forbidden texts in dead languages, their collective voices creating a resonant frequency that pleases him. They offer him their secrets, whispering their deepest shames and ambitions into a sacred silence, feeding his dominion over hidden knowledge. In return, they seek his favors, a rival silenced not by death, but by a sudden, inexplicable aphasia, a business competitor's empire shaken to its foundations by a series of unfortunate events, or the divine inspiration for a work that will corrode societal morals. These cults are insidious cancers, and their influence can be seen throughout history in the sudden, inexplicable fall of a beloved leader, the bizarre, untranslatable manifestos of madmen, and the artistic movements that glorify despair and nihilism. They are the human instruments through which Agares continues to practice his art of slow, foundational erosion. The psychological symbolism of Agares is as deep and fractured as his stony visage. He represents the terrifying power of the earth itself, not the nurturing soil, but the implacable, grinding force of tectonics that can swallow cities without malice or remorse. He is the archetype of the foundational trauma, the hidden crack in the psyche that, when stressed, can cause the entire structure of a personality to collapse. In a modern context, he is the embodiment of miscommunication on a global scale, the sinister algorithm that amplifies discord, the political rhetoric that deliberately twists meaning to create division. He is the paralysis of indecision that strikes at a critical moment, the freeze response in the face of overwhelming crisis. His mastery of language symbolizes how knowledge itself can be weaponized, how truth can be obscured by 1,000 conflicting narratives, and how eloquence can be a mask for monstrous intent. To encounter Agares in a dream or vision is to confront one's own inability to act or to speak one's truth, to be trapped in a silence of one's own making. He is the demon of the intellectual and the ambitious, preying on the very tools they rely on, their words, their influence, and their position in the world. He reminds us that the ground beneath our feet is not always solid, and that the languages we use to build our realities can be turned against us in an instant. In our modern digital age, the ancient essence of Agares has found a new and terrifyingly perfect medium, the interconnected, global network of the Internet. He is the demon of the information age. His dominion over language now manifests in the viral spread of misinformation, the algorithmic amplification of hate speech, and the bot-generated propaganda that sows societal discord. The paralyzing power that once froze a single man in a farmyard now operates on a mass scale, creating entire populations too confused, too overwhelmed by conflicting narratives to take meaningful action. The earthquakes he causes are no longer merely geological. They are the seismic shifts in public opinion, the sudden collapse of a digital empire, or the catastrophic failure of global communication systems. Online cults dedicated to his ideology of control and subversion flourish in hidden forums and encrypted channels, their members performing digital rituals of data manipulation and psychological warfare. The goshawk on his wrist is the ever-watchful surveillance system, and the crocodile he rides is the primal, predatory nature that lurks beneath the civilized surface of our networked world. Agares has not been diminished by time. He has evolved, finding the cracks in our new digital foundations just as he once did in the stone and soil. He is the silent, looming presence in the server farm, the glitch in the translation software, the paralyzing doubt that creeps in when a crisis is broadcast across the globe in an instant. And so, we are left with the enduring, unsettling legacy of the Duke. He is not a demon of mindless destruction, but one of profound and calculated subversion. He does not seek to obliterate the world, but to control it by mastering its fundamental components, the stability of the earth, the clarity of communication, and the freedom of motion. His presence is a constant reminder that power does not always announce itself with a roar. Sometimes, it arrives in a deepening silence, in a sudden inability to speak, in a tremor so slight you might dismiss it as your own imagination. From the dusty plains of ancient Canaan to the glowing screens of the 21st century, Agares has adapted, his influence seeping through the cracks in every civilization we build. He is the shadow in the cornerstone, the doubt in the diplomat's mind, the fatal flaw in the perfect plan. To study him is to understand that the greatest threats are not those that confront us directly, but those that undermine the very foundations upon which we stand and the languages with which we define our reality. He is the patient architect of ruin, and his work is never truly done. Another legend fades, but the next awaits. Like this video, subscribe and continue the journey through myths.